What's going on, everybody? Teej back again with another video, and today we end our initial scouting reports with the safety group heading into the 2023 NFL draft season. And I'm excited to have our initial rankings done. Of course, we'll be updating that throughout the rest of the year. And then, of course, next week we'll have an updated NFL mock draft for you. So be on the lookout for that. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the like button if you're excited for that. But let's waste no time. We'll do my rankings 5 up to 1. Then we'll give some honorable mentions, and we'll get you out of here. So for my 2023 safety rankings, we start with J.R. Moten, former two-sport athlete when he got to Michigan, baseball and football. He's kind of ended that baseball career, focusing on football. And dude, awesome grades across the board using PFF's stats and grades and numbers in their system. And he's already played about a third of the number of snaps he played all of last year, which is encouraging. So not only is he playing well, he's seen the field at a much higher rate early on here this season. And he'll have some rough games and moments. I'm kind of projecting and anticipating he will, just because he's raw from a playing time perspective. But that being said, you notice those types of okay, well, with playing time, that won't be an issue. You see those moments, with different players across the country. I haven't really seen it yet with Moten, but once we see that, it sticks out like a sore thumb, and I feel pretty confident being able to say, okay, yeah, but with more playing time, Moten's not going to make that play, or he'll learn from that mistake, that type of stuff. So 6 foot, 223. Think this guy has a really well, blended skill set, but he is violent working downfield. If this dude is heading toward, just slide down, because it's going to hurt if he hits you. So moving up, number 4, Brandon Joseph. Really like him as a coverage player. I was excited, speaking as a Notre Dame fan, after Kyle Hamilton obviously goes to the NFL draft, it's like, man, that's going to be a huge hole in our defense. Brandon Joseph, though, transfers from Northwestern, so it's like, awesome. We got, one of the other premier names to this position in college football, and, coming from, a similar area. So all really exciting. Really like him as a coverage player. The angles and his tackling, needs to be improved upon. But nonetheless, a little bit of a work in progress there. I wonder how much of that is just what Marcus Freeman's asking him to do in that defense. I could see him being incentivized to just kind of be the wild guy running around the field, kind of running around with his hair on fire or something like that. Now I don't know that, for certain or anything like that, but the way he moves too, I think is an interesting talking point, because a lot of projections and anticipations for his athletic numbers are not something that say, hey, this is a first round safety. The dude's game speed, he feels like he moves way faster than what some of these numbers are being reported as. So we'll have to wait and see once we get to Indianapolis. But it'd be interesting to see teams that favor, the in-game speed, the AWS tracking of, miles per hour and stuff like that, if they, value that more than whatever he clocks in at Indianapolis. Especially considering, going back to Kyle Hamilton, nowhere near the same players, but Hamilton running his 40, that really hurt his stock a fair amount. And it really just looked like, and I have, people who at the school I work at, as a broadcaster, I asked some of the people on the track and field team, I was like, does this guy look like he's ever done this before? And they were all like, no. He easily could shave off some time if he just learned how to do it. So I felt like Kyle Hamilton just kind of put that on the back burner, focused on football, and just didn't learn how to run a proper, 40 and get all the technique down. And because of that, the time suffered. Brandon Joseph, so with that being said, Kyle Hamilton started to make plays, had a big, forced fumble for the Ravens this past week. Again, coming down to weighing AWS in-game speed versus the measurables that you get at the combine. It'll be interesting to see how that debate plays out specifically for Brandon Joseph in my eyes. But again, really like him as a coverage player. And he does move downhill really, really quick. Again, game speed really is pretty quick in my opinion. But gonna have to be cleaning up what he does as a tackler. And if he's struggling, bringing guys down at the college level, it makes you hold your breath about what that might look like at the NFL ranks. So again, just need to see him get better there. Moving on to number 3, Brian Branch, slot heavy right now for Alabama, but a guy who's literally played all 5 positions, both outside corner spots, nickel, both safety positions. So love that. And kind of last video I put out, corners, I'm biased to those long, lanky, 6'1", 6'2" body types. For safeties, I love guys that I feel like I can move around in a ton of different places. Like Antoine Winfield Jr., if that dude was anything other than 5'9", that would be like my dream safety. And I think I saw some of that in Kyle Hamilton, maybe not as a man-to-man coverage corner. Derwin James is a perfect example. Those guys, Javon Holland's another great one that I loved and talked about a ton on this channel. Those guys where you can do a ton of different things with and move all over the field, I am absolutely biased to that. I would take, maybe a little bit of a work in progress with a guy who can do a lot of different things versus maybe the standard, you can trust it, he can be a day one starter, true free safety in a cover 3 defense or something like that. I'm more intrigued by versatility and being able to keep defenses or offenses on their toes. I kind of fall into a similar boat of how Wink Martindale views defense, where it's defense doesn't need to be reactionary. We can be proactive. We can cause some chaos and force the offense to do some of the reacting. And I think safety positions are great spots to be able to do some of that. So just getting some of my scouting bias out of the way, that's why I really do like Brian Branch, because it's just like, dude, you could do so many different things with him. Now, he's still, a little bit of a work in progress, not necessarily the cleanest, coverage player, doesn't always bring down the ball carrier, still need to work on, tackling ability, but dude, as an athlete, that guy's going to put up some great numbers. Hard hitter. When he does bring you down, you feel it. So that accompanied with good ball skills, again, specifically playing in the slot. Love how he can cut off angles, and that was something I really liked about Javon Holland, being able to cut off routes. So really interested to see what the rest of 2022 has in store for Branch. Do we see him grow as a player? And, again, different position even. But, kind of Jamin Davis when he was coming out of Kentucky, it was like week over week, you saw him start to figure it out and get a little bit better. Now, obviously, that hasn't totally carried over to the NFL. I'd like to see something similar from Brian Branch here. Now, two different positions, two very different schools and programs, expectations, all that stuff. But nonetheless, if I see week to week, it's like, yep, Brian Branch is starting to figure this out. That makes me that much more confident about him being, first round, top of the second round type of dude once we get to next April, maybe even sooner. But that being said, Jordan Battle is the Alabama safety I like a little bit more. He is not going to wow you athletically, where I think Brian Branch will put up some cool numbers and catch a lot of people's attention. Jordan Battle's not going to be that guy. He is very much more of that Xavier McKinney, and I hate helmet scouting like that, but he is very much in that type of mold where, again, athletically, nothing that's going to, knock your socks off. But dude just is so instinctual, always puts himself in the right spot at the right time, read and react at a high level as well. And because of that, I think he actually is a really solid coverage player. Now, it'll be interesting to see where you get to the NFL level and, the athletic, call it floor, if you will, for every player is just that much higher. Does he have what it takes to, continue to be someone who maybe can handle tight ends and man-to-man coverage? Or is he someone who strictly, if he's going to be in coverage, it needs to be in that robber role, kind of have him living at the first down marker? I can see that as well. But I also think he has a really good instinctual presence as a deep safety. So probably best suited in something that's going to ask him to, rotate up high or down in the box as a robber, try to avoid some man coverage. If your team blitzes a lot, maybe this is not the guy for your team. But nonetheless, I love how instinctual and easy he moves throughout the course of the game. And again, it feels very Xavier McKinney was a guy I really liked. And McKinney went at the top of the second round. I thought that was a little late, but if Battle's in that late one, top of round two conversation, I love it. And been talking about the Bills a ton. Hurry up offense. If you didn't see that this week, definitely go back and check that out. We talked about the Micah Hyde injury for the Bills. Say there's a situation where Jordan Poyer Micah Hyde decides to not play again because of the severity of that injury, and Jordan Battle was somebody who was drafted by the Bills. I love that fit. Even though that's, we're talking about him rotating up and, down in the box then as a robber, thinking in the lens of, cover three heavy team, single high, defenses. But I think, in, two high shells, running that 2-4-6 coverages, I think he'd thrive there, and pair him up with Jordan Poyer. That's kind of my early, if I could have a player go to a destination, I think Jordan Battle going to Buffalo is one of the ones that immediately stands out. So anyways, a little bit of a tangent there. Let's talk about number one, Antonio Johnson. And, I won't talk long here as I just made you suffer through my Jordan Battle destination hopes there. But Antonio Johnson was preseason safety one, or if you had him in the corner group, he was high ranked there. He does live predominantly out of the slot for Texas A&M, but I think that's, you think of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Antoine Winfield Jr., these new age slot corner, strong safety types. But Johnson, while doing a lot from the slot, has played about 60 snaps as a free as well as a strong. And then that comes with 6'3", as his, frame, 200 pounds. This dude could be great at any one of those three positions. I think he'd be an awesome NFL slot corner. I think he'd be an awesome strong safety. I think he could be an awesome free. And the fact that he could do all that, fantastic. And again, thinking about versatility and how much you do with this guy. If you have a game plan where it's like, hey, I see Travis Kelce this week, like Antonio Johnson could be your tight end stopper. Or it's like, hey, Tyler Boyd's a demon in the slot. We need a guy to pick him up. I think Antonio Johnson could be that guy. I think he could be a guy you bring off the edge and have as an impact blitzer, kind of like with Javon Holland. Maybe not to the same level, but I think he's got that in his bag. He can be a traditional, strong safety. Hey, this team runs the ball well. We got to rotate Johnson to the box. Think he can help out there. Or this team, hey, they're going to air it out. You got to play him deep. We got to have his eyes on the quarterback, trying to make big turnover-worthy plays, right? Create some takeaways. I think he can do that too. So I think he's just going to be a really good player that can do a lot of different things at a high level, and he's just one of the best defensive players in this draft, bar none in my opinion. So moving on now, let's talk about these honorable mentions. We start with J.L. Skinner, and safety is kind of a tough position because not all these guys play free or strong, and we've already talked about, Antonio Johnson and Brian Branch, guys who live out of the nickel. So I'll be, especially on these honorable mentions, clear to, what I think they best suit as. And I think Skinner as a strong safety, box safety type at 6'4", 220, you're going to hear a lot of Cam Chancellor comparisons. And because of that body, it makes a ton of sense. But 80.2 coverage grade per Pro Football Focus, that was last year's numbers. This year's at 69.4, still not a bad mark, but if he gets back in the mid-70s, then I feel like, hey, last year wasn't a fluke. He was able to repeat it to some degree. But back-to-back years so far of, a 70-plus overall grade, 70-plus tackling grade, and if you're going to be that box safety type, coverage is kind of a plus. I want you to essentially just be a big, tall, more athletic linebacker, and Skinner certainly does that for Boise State. Moving on to Christopher Smith, elite coverage grade 89.5, 5 picks, 3 PBUs since the start of last season when he started to become a starter for Georgia. He's just been one of the best coverage safeties in college football and doing it on one of the best defenses in the country. So makes total sense that he's somebody to keep your eyes on when it comes to the NFL draft. Tyke Smith, another Georgia Bulldog, slot heavy here. Actually spent 2 years at West Virginia, did not play a whole lot last year, but now has taken over as that slot corner for the Bulldogs. And in his 3 years of significant playing time, the 2 years at West Virginia, and then this year, you're looking at a coverage grade going from 74.2 to 89.7, then down to 77.4, but that comes in the SEC. So really solid production when he's been able to get out on the field. And also tackling grades ranging between 78 and 85. And if you're going to be a nickel, I need to be able to see that. We kind of talked about that yesterday in my corners video. And some of that, again, with these slot-heavy safeties, some of that transfers over. But Tyke Smith is a solid tackler. That's going to be a must-have if he's going to be that, strong safety, nickel corner hybrid. Ronnie Hickman, probably a box safety type, strong safety. But that being said, going back to last year, had a really nice mix, 112 snaps from the slot, 244 at free safety, 325 at strong. This year, predominantly been the box safety, though. But that being said, I've kind of hit the brakes pretty heavily on how excited I can be about Hickman because he's got 5 missed tackles already this year. And for context, he's got 10 tackles. So, yeah, that's got to be improved if he's going to be a guy who lives in front of the line of scrimmage, or the first down marker and plays in the box. So, needs to see some improvement there. But I'm also interested to see if he gets that rotation back. Maybe he does start to play some other positions and maybe that frees him up a little bit, or he just becomes more fun as a box safety, cleans up the tackling and just becomes one of the best players on that Buckeyes defense. I could see that happening. So, have to wait and see. It's certainly a little bit of a projection, maybe having him in my honorable mentions here, but again, I like guys who can move across the field, but needs to clean up that tackling for sure. And then Jalen Catalon, be real quick here with the last name. If not for injuries, he is probably my safety too, and right on the heels of Antonio Johnson. Like, legitimately, 2 guys who probably go in the top 16 in my eyes. But he just cannot stay healthy. Another injury, so he's kind of a tough player, and I thought about not including him just because it's like, man, is he even going to get drafted? But that being said, if he goes back to Arkansas, all he's doing is risking his body for NIL money versus being like, hey, I'm a good athlete, and he is a good athlete. I can get healthy in time for Indy, put up some crazy numbers, get drafted late day 2, early day 3 type of stuff where it's like, yeah, I'm a risk. Think about where Trey Smith went to the Chiefs. That was a 6th-round pick. Let's just say that happens. Jalen Catalon as a 6th-round pick will make more money in 4 years on an NFL contract than he will one more year at Arkansas off NIL money. So it's also one of those spots where it's like, as much as I think he could go back to school, maybe the best move financially is just saying, hey, I'll go to the NFL, make some money for 4 years, and hopefully maybe when I get to the NFL level, I'll have a team that has a ton of resources when it comes to recovery and injury prevention, and that will allow me to get on the field because the talent is there. Like I said, this guy's a first-round talent. Guy just can't stay healthy. So maybe getting out of Arkansas and getting to the NFL level, there's more tools and resources that is availability to keep him on the field. But also, again, I think he might end up entering the draft just for the sake of like, hey, 4 years in the NFL will make me more money than 1 more year at Arkansas, and potentially then maybe going to the NFL if I don't get hurt. So that's kind of my thinking on Catalan. So I did end up including him on this list, but that's going to do it for my final position group initial rankings. This time we're talking about the safety group. Tell me what you think about this class down below in the comment section. What's a name I left off that you think I'm crazy for not including? How would you rank this, class 5 up to 1? And maybe some of your favorite honorable mentions we talked about. Love to have your thoughts. It's a one-sided conversation with just me talking, but I'd love to hear your takes. So let me hear it down below in the comment section. I respond to every comment as well. So certainly it's a nice bonus there. But hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. It helped me out a ton. If you're new right here, want to see more draft and football content in general, just hit that big red subscribe button. Be sure to come back next week when we have an updated mock draft for you. That's going to do it for me. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej. I'm signing off.